Forget age, forget social rules. I've seen souls recognize each other. When this happens, a man doesn't just change his priorities, he evolves on a spiritual level.
We often have this kind of script in our heads about
Yeah.
relationships, right?
Yeah.
Like same age, same stage of life, the usual goals.
Hmm.
But what happens when a connection just fundamentally rejects that script?
Yeah, exactly, when it just doesn't fit the mold.
We're looking today at a dynamic that's, well, it's powerful and maybe sometimes really misunderstood.
Yeah.
The connection between a younger man and an emotionally mature woman.
Right.
And it gets dismissed so quickly, doesn't it?
Absolutely. People jump to conclusions.
Like, oh, it's just a phase, or he's rebelling.
Or he's looking for a mother figure, that old, frankly quite dismissive trope.
Exactly. But the sources we're diving into today suggest something.
Right.
Well, something much deeper might be going on, a real transformation.
That's precisely it. When we talk about this dynamic, we're trying to peel back those superficial layers, the age gap, the social expectations. We want to look at what the sources describe as a deep, almost spiritual kind of transformation. So this deep dive is really about the alchemy of that connection. Specifically, why a young man might go through this incredibly accelerated emotional evolution when he connects with a mature woman whose authenticity and conscious presence just become magnetic.
Right. So it's not just about, a spark or being infatuated for a bit.
No, not at all.
We're talking about fundamental shifts, changes in priorities and behavior.
Foundational shifts, exactly.
Like a kind of relational acceleration that doesn't really fit the standard psychological timelines or norms we often expect. We're looking at patterns that it seem to show its authenticity, not trying to be perfect. That's the key ingredient here.
That's our mission today, to really analyze the observations from the source material and try to understand why this specific dynamic seems to trigger such fundamental change. And it seems rooted really entirely in the woman's deep self-awareness and her conscious maturity.
Okay, this sounds fascinating. And just before we jump into the first section, a quick reminder. If you want to dive deeper into relationship psychology with us every single week, make sure you subscribe, maybe hit that like button, and definitely let us know what psychological dynamic stands out to you in the comments below.
Yeah, your engagement really helps us figure out exactly which complex topics you, the learner, want us to unpack next.
Absolutely. We build this for you.
Okay, so let's start by trying to define this core idea that seems to ground these powerful dynamics. It's the difference between just a superficial connection and what the sources are calling a spiritual or a soul connection.
Soul connection. Okay, that sounds significant.
It is. And the argument here is, look, if this dynamic were purely transactional, him seeking experience, her seeking validation, maybe, it would just fizzle out pretty quickly, right?
So those things don't usually last.
Exactly. But instead, what's observed is this persistence, a bond where, and this is a quote, something in the core of his being recognizes something in the core of hers.
Core recognition.
Yeah.
It's powerful phrasing, but it's also quite abstract, isn't it?
It is.
It's easy to maybe dismiss that as just, intense infatuation or maybe limerence,
Yeah.
that initial high.
Definitely.
So how do we, from a psychological perspective, actually tell the difference? How do we separate this core recognition from that, initial dopamine rush?
That's a really vital question. And the distinction, according to the sources, seems to lie in the behavioral certainty that follows.
Behavioral certainty, okay.
Yeah. Limerence or intense infatuation, usually marked by a lot of instability, right? High anxiety, needing constant validation. It's up and down.
Right, that roller coaster feeling.
Exactly. This soul connection, though, it's described as leading to almost immediate radical stability.
Stability, interesting.
Yes. The recognition seems to transcend time, social expectations, that age gap we mentioned. Suddenly, it feels like an irrelevant detail. It's like they've found this shared foundational home, almost. It doesn't matter if she's 45 and he's 30.
Yeah.
That core certainty just overrides all the external noise, all the shoulds.
So that abstract idea, if your soul could pick, who would it pick? It actually shows up in measurable, tangible behavior.
Precisely.
And you're saying the very first sign, maybe the most subtle but clearest one, is this radical shift. He just automatically prioritizes her.
That's it. Automatic prioritization. And this shift is what really sets this dynamic apart from, say, typical early dating or courtship behavior.
Oh, so.
Well, he starts prioritizing her, but crucially, without being asked, there's no negotiation, no pressure, and often this happens before the relationship has even hit those conventional milestones we think of as serious.
Okay.
The sources describe it as completely organic, like his internal calculator for what's valuable, how he spends his time. It just instantly and permanently reorganized around her. She becomes central.
That sounds, well, almost too good to be true in some ways. Let's push on that a bit.
Okay.
How does this actually look day to day? Because just saying he texts back quickly isn't really enough to say soul connection, is it?
No, absolutely not. It goes much, much deeper than that. What the sources describe are things like him proactively managing his calendar to ensure quality time, sometimes dealing with conflicts that don't even directly involve her, just to smooth things out. Or anticipating her needs practical things, like making sure her car is okay before a long drive, or being genuinely supportive of her career pressures.
Okay, so beyond just romantic gestures.
Way beyond. And crucially, willingly sacrificing things like time with his buddies or solo hobbies that he used to guard really fiercely.
Things he wouldn't normally give up easily.
Exactly. This isn't behavior you typically see until much later, maybe in a marriage or a very long-term committed partnership.
Right.
He's not doing it to impress her, not consciously anyway. He's doing it because his internal value system has somehow fused her well-being with his own sense of peace or stability.
Wow. That speaks volumes about the depth of the commitment then. It's intrinsic. It's just there.
Yes, a certainty.
And you mentioned before we can anchor this in something more concrete than just observation neurobiology.
Yes, this is where we can try to bridge that gap between the, let's say, spiritual or psychological observation and the scientific underpinnings. Research, including some insights referenced from places like the University of Rochester that studied deep attachment, it suggests that these really profound emotional connections can literally reconfigure the brain's reward pathways.
Okay, rewire the brain. Can you unpack that a little? What's actually getting rewired? If the start is that high-octane chemistry, what changes when it settles into this profound certainty you're describing?
It seems to be a shift in the primary neurological drivers. So in those early, often more volatile relationships, you see dominance from dopamine and noradrenaline pathways.
The thrill, the chase, the excitement.
Exactly. The novelty seeking, the high excitement. Those pathways keep you kind of searching, maybe a bit restless. But in this deeper connection, the reward system appears to shift. It starts relying more on stable systems driven by hormones like oxytocin and vasopressin.
The bonding hormones.
The bonding and attachment hormones, yes. So the brain starts finding its reward not in the search or the chase, but in the stability, the security, the predictability of that other person's presence. So the completion he feels, it's literally like a neurological settling. That high-octane novelty-seeking quiets down, and it's replaced by this deep resonant satisfaction of belonging, of having arrived.
So he's not just liking her more. His actual mechanism for feeling peaceful and settled has fundamentally changed to include her.
That's a great way to put it. His mechanism for peace has been recalibrated around her centrality.
Okay, so once that profound shift happens neurologically, behaviorally it seems like the man's emotional life then starts to catch up, often really quickly.
Yes, an acceleration.
Which brings us to the engine of this transformation you mentioned, vulnerability. And the idea is that the mature woman offers something often missing elsewhere, this ability to hold his masculine fragility, maybe, without judgment, without fear.
That seems to be the key ingredient, what we can call contain vulnerability.
Contain vulnerability.
Yes. She doesn't judge it. She doesn't try to fix him or change him. And maybe most critically, she isn't scared off by the depth or the messiness of his emotional world.
Right.
This goes back to that crucial difference between seeing someone as a partner versus seeing them as a project to be fixed.
Okay, but I can imagine some listeners, maybe mature women, thinking, hang on, receiving a younger man's fragility sounds exhausting.
Absolutely.
Especially if they've been the main emotional support in past relationships. So how do the sources differentiate this contained vulnerability from just emotional dumping, which, let's be honest, can be incredibly draining?
That is the critical distinction, and it's easily misunderstood. It's not about the man just showing up and unloading all his issues onto her lap. It's about the woman offering a container. The idea is she's likely navigated her own significant emotional storms already, her own shadows, past traumas, fears. She's built up the internal capacity to hold complex emotions, her own and others, without collapsing under their weight.
So it's her own inner work that makes the difference.
Precisely. So when he does share something vulnerable, he's met not with panic or unsolicited advice or a frantic need to fix him, but with a kind of serene presence, acceptance.
So her maturity creates this field of security, as the sources call it.
Mhm.
And it's based on her self-possession, not her ability to rescue him.
Exactly. She is conscious, not maternal in a rescuing sense. She offers presence, but crucially, without the need for him to be rescued by her.
Okay.
She doesn't need him to be perfect or problem-free, partly because she accepts her own imperfections. She's okay with complexity.
And that stability defines her strength.
Yes. Real strength in this context isn't about never feeling fear. It's the ability to hold your own fear, and maybe the fear of others, with a degree of serenity, calmness. She basically models a secure attachment style. And for a man who maybe operates from a more avoidant or even disorganized attachment pattern,
Which is not uncommon.
not at all, her security provides the necessary anchor, maybe for the first time, for him to actually feel safe enough to explore his own internal landscape.
And when that safety field is established, you're saying the behavioral transformation kicks into high gear,
Yeah.
thinking about the future.
Yes, it accelerates almost immediately into future thinking. It's described as feeling natural. The quality of the connection itself makes the future feel. The sources use this phrase, not only possible, but inevitable.
Wow.
Inevitable. Yeah. And this isn't coming from external pressure from her, like, where is this going? It's an internal certainty that just changes his whole horizon.
So what does that look like practically? What kind of behavioral changes are we talking about?
Well, it becomes a natural outcome of finding that stability he lacked before. The sources mention behavioral shifts that really defy the common expectations for men, say, in their late 20s or early 30s.
Right.
Men who previously lived very much weekend to weekend, whose longest term planning maybe involved booking a flight for a trip next month.
Right. More spontaneous.
Suddenly, they start doing things like integrating her into their long-term financial planning, introducing her to really key family members, not just casually, discussing serious 5-year plans that involve shared housing, maybe blending families, major life commitments, things that require real forethought.
It really suggests they feel they've finally found something or someone worth building with, something solid.
Exactly, something worth investing in long-term.
But if she's not pressuring him, what's the specific spark? What's the mechanism that inspires him to do all this accelerated emotional work? It doesn't just happen in a vacuum.
It seems to be inspiration, not obligation. That's the key distinction.
Inspiration.
He starts doing his internal work, and that could be anything, really, from finally going to therapy to pushing himself harder in his career, setting bigger goals. He does it because he's genuinely inspired by her emotional intelligence, by her way of being.
So her inner work makes her attractive in a way that makes him want to level up himself.
Precisely. Her completeness, her self-possession becomes so attractive that he seeks to mirror it. He wants to develop that capacity within himself.
Can you give us maybe a more concrete example or anecdote from the source material, something that illustrates that leap from inspiration to actual action?
Sure. One pattern that comes up consistently is men seeking professional help, like therapy, for the very first time in their lives.
Okay.
Take an example profile. A 32-year-old guy, high achiever maybe, but always kind of stressed, guarded, maybe a bit cynical about therapy. He starts dating a 44-year-old partner. He sees her navigate her own complex challenges, maybe a difficult situation at work, a professional setback, a family issue.
Real life stuff.
Real life stuff.
Yeah.
But she handles it with poise,
Mhm.
with strategic self-care, without collapsing emotionally or lashing out. She models for him that vulnerability isn't weakness. It's actually a form of strategic self-awareness. It's strength. So he has this realization, wow, if I want to build a truly solid foundation with her, with someone this grounded, I need to develop that same capacity. I need to handle my own internal pressure more consciously.
So her emotional health becomes the benchmark he aspires to.
Exactly. It's not a demand she places on him. It's a standard he wants to meet because he sees how well it serves her. And by extension, their connection.
That really reframes the whole thing, doesn't it? It's not
Yeah.
the woman domesticating the man or taming him.
Not at all.
He's actively seeking to elevate himself to match the level of maturity and self-awareness she naturally embodies.
Precisely. It's aspirational. Okay, so now let's shift the focus a bit more onto the woman side of this equation. When we talk about the mature woman's magnetic appeal in this dynamic, there's a huge societal misconception, isn't there?
Yeah, that she has to be perfect somehow, like
Yeah.
totally zen, immune to stress, has all her ducks in a row, and carried all the emotional weight of the relationship.
Exactly. The strong woman trope, but taken to an impossible extreme.
But the reality, based on the source material we're looking at, seems much simpler and actually more powerful. What really facilitates this profound connection isn't perfection at all. It's authenticity.
Absolutely. Authenticity is the core. And authenticity in this context means she's learned, as the sources put it, to be, not to pretend.
To be, not to pretend.
I like that.
Yeah.
It means she feels complete within herself. She isn't constantly seeking external validation or approval to fill some kind of internal void or insecurity. That integrity, that sense of wholeness, creates this powerful magnetism that just transcends age. Because she's operating from a place of plenitude, not from an image she feels she has to desperately maintain.
Okay, let's unpack that word, plenitude. When we say a woman operates from plenitude, what does that actually look like in her daily interactions? How is it different from operating from need?
That's a great question. Operating from plenitude means she comes to the relationship not asking implicitly or explicitly, what can you do for me to make me feel worthy or okay? Instead, the energy is more like, okay, here I am, whole and valuable already. How can we together build something meaningful from this fullness?
So she knows her value intrinsically.
Yes. And because she knows her value, she doesn't need to chase or play games or anxiously monitor the relationship status every 5 minutes. There's a calm confidence there.
And that lack of neediness is the foundation for what you call the paradox of accessibility.
Exactly. That's where this fascinating paradox comes in.
Okay, we definitely need to break that down. The paradox of accessibility. It sounds a bit like emotional game playing, maybe, playing hard to get. But you're saying the sources imply the opposite.
It is the exact opposite of playing games. Strategic inaccessibility, playing hard to get, that's about manipulation, creating artificial scarcity.
Okay.
The paradox of accessibility is about genuine independence coupled with genuine availability.
How does that work?
She isn't easy in the sense of having no standards or boundaries. She isn't superficially accessible to just anyone. Her value is high. But crucially, when she is present, she is really accessible, emotionally available, open, real.
So high value, yet simultaneously available for deep connection. That's the paradox.
That's the paradox, holding both.
So what are the key attributes then, the things that allow her to hold this paradox and make her so compelling to a man who's looking for something substantial, not superficial?
It boils down to her capacity to hold seemingly contradictory states within herself gracefully.
Like what?
Okay, so she can be vulnerable, open about her feelings, her fears, but without being needy or dependent. She shares, but she doesn't collapse.
Okay. Vulnerable but not needy.
Right. She's strong in her convictions, has clear boundaries, but without being rigid or dogmatic, she can listen to other perspectives.
Strong but not rigid. Got it.
She's wise, often because of her life experience, but she's never superior or condescending about it. She doesn't lecture.
Wise but not superior.
Exactly. And maybe the biggest one. She's fiercely independent, has her own life, her own center, yet she is fully available and willing to build a deeply integrated partnership.
Independent and available. That's the core paradox again.
That's it. And that ability to balance these things signals deep internal stability. And that stability is like the ultimate anti-anxiety medicine for a partner, especially maybe a younger man navigating his own path.
And it's this internal stability, this self-possession, that allows her to create genuine emotional security for him.
Yeah.
Which, as you mentioned, we have to carefully distinguish from protection.
Yes, absolutely critical distinction.
Because protection, the sources argue, is actually destructive to the man's growth in the long run.
It is. It infantilizes her. Protection is when the woman steps in and solves his problems for him.
Like managing his finances, fighting his battles with his boss, telling him what to eat.
Exactly. Shielding him from criticism, managing his schedule like he's a child, intervening in his conflicts with friends or family. It treats him like a project that needs constant saving or management.
And you're saying that kills the connection.
Ultimately, yes. It drains the respect, the equality, and often the sexual energy right out of the dynamic. He stops being a partner and becomes a dependent.
Okay, so that's protection. What does security look like in practice then? How is it different?
Security liberates him. It's about her creating a safe emotional space within which he can experience life, the good and the bad. He can make mistakes, he can be vulnerable, he can fail sometimes, knowing she won't judge him or rush in to fix it unnecessarily or withdraw her affection.
So if he messes up at work, for instance,
She provides empathy, she listens, she trusts his capacity to figure it out and recover, maybe offers perspective if asked, but she doesn't take over the problem. She holds the space for him to navigate the challenge.
Right. Trusting his competence.
Yes. And the source material really emphasizes this point, that freedom, the freedom from being rescued but within a secure base, that's described as one of the greatest aphrodisiacs. The mature, secure woman doesn't take away his freedom by managing him. She provides the solid foundation from which he can operate freely, competently, and grow.
And providing that kind of secure presence requires her to have, as you said, a conscious relationship with her own problems, her own complexities.
Absolutely. We have to bust the myth that she's this serene goddess who has solved everything in her own life. That's not realistic or even desirable.
Perfection is the enemy of authenticity, right?
Exactly. She doesn't have to have conquered every single challenge. What matters is how she relates to her own ongoing complexity, her own stuff.
So what does that look like? Relating consciously to her own problems.
It means she can hold her own difficult emotions, her anger, her anxiety, her disappointment, without collapsing into victimhood or projecting them destructively onto him. She takes responsibility for her feelings.
Okay. Self-responsibility.
Yes. And this shows up in specific communication skills, doesn't it?
Like how she asks for things?
Exactly. She communicates her needs clearly, directly, but without manipulation or blame, using I statements rooted in her own experience. I feel X when Y happens, not you make me feel Z.
Right. Clean communication.
And she sets limits clearly, firmly, but without resorting to punishment, the silent treatment, or cruelty when those limits are inevitably tested or challenged.
Okay. Healthy boundaries.
Yes. And all of this, her self-responsibility, her clear communication, her boundaries, it sets her up as what the sources call a mirror of possibilities for the younger man.
A mirror of possibilities. How so?
He sees, through her example, that life's complexity can be managed with poise, that vulnerability doesn't mean weakness, it can coexist with strength, that you can have needs and boundaries without drama.
And that mirroring effect, that's what you meant by a spiritual connection earlier.
Precisely. In superficial relationships, often both people are busy trying to perform, trying to be the person they think the other one wants. It's exhausting.
Yeah, keeping up appearances.
But when this level of authenticity and conscious relating is present, from her side especially, it liberates both individuals to be exactly who they really are, flaws, complexities, and all. And that's deeply connecting. So when the soul connection, this deep authenticity is really genuine, the most profound outcome we see behaviorally is the search just stops. It visibly ceases.
The search. You mean like looking for other partners?
Yes, but also something deeper. That internal restlessness, that feeling of, is there something better out there? That constant scanning. For the man, this isn't about settling or conforming to fit with her. It's described as feeling completed.
Completed.
Like finding a home he didn't even consciously know he was desperately looking for.
That tranquility you mentioned earlier, that sense of peace.
Exactly. The restless energy, the scanning of options, that habitual pursuit of novelty, that whole dopamine-driven cycle we talked about, it just snaps.
It's like the analogy you used. Being thirsty for years without realizing how thirsty you were, and finally finding water.
That's a good way to put it. And that visible peace, that calmness in him, is maybe the truest external sign that the internal search has genuinely ended. He's arrived.
And when that certainty takes root, you're saying it completely changes how he interacts with the outside world, particularly with criticism or judgment about the relationship.
Absolutely. It shifts his entire posture. He doesn't just passively tolerate external opinions or judgments about the age gap or whatever else people might say. He actively and sometimes fiercely defends the relationship.
Defends it. Okay.
The sources are quite clear on this. He integrates her into his life, not tentatively, but with pride. He honors the connection publicly. He shields it from societal judgment or skepticism.
Why? Is it because he feels he needs to justify his choice?
No, it's the opposite. He's not justifying a choice he's unsure about. He's honoring a certainty that feels integral to his very being now. It's non-negotiable for him.
Let's dig into that defense mechanism a bit. Is he primarily defending her, the woman? Or is he defending his new identity, this more mature, stable, completed self that he's become through the connection?
That's a subtle point. I think it's likely both. The core driver seems to be defending the certainty itself.
Okay.
By defending the relationship, he's safeguarding the newfound security, stability, and peace that he's finally found. That state of being has allowed his own identity to kind of crystallize, to feel more solid.
So an attack on the relationship feels like an attack on his own core stability.
Exactly. It's perceived as an attack on his own peace, his own foundation. Therefore, he presents her with pride. He integrates her fully into all his social circles, friends, family, work even. He's unwavering because this connection isn't just part of his life, it's become foundational to who he is now.
Okay. That makes sense. However, we absolutely must introduce a note of caution here, right?
It's absolutely critical.
Because this dynamic, this deep connection with a mature woman, can sometimes be sought by men who aren't actually ready for that depth.
Yes, very important point.
Some might just be seeking experience or validation, or maybe they're running away from the emotional work required in relationships with their peers.
Exactly. It can look similar on the surface initially.
So the mature woman in this situation needs to have a really high degree of discernment.
Discernment is the key skill, not judgment, which closes things down, but discernment, the ability to see clearly what's actually motivating him.
So how does she do that? How does she tell the difference between a man genuinely seeking connection and one who's just looking for experience, or maybe even a caretaker? What are the markers?
That's the crucial skill. The sources suggest looking at how he makes her feel special.
Okay.
The experience seeker tends to make you feel special for what you know. Your wisdom, your career accomplishments, your life expertise, maybe your sophisticated tastes. He learns from you. You feel a bit like a mentor, a guru, or a fascinating textbook.
Okay. Learning from you.
The connection seeker, on the other hand, makes you feel special for who you are. Your spirit, your presence, your unique way of being in the world. He wants to grow with you. He sees you as an equal partner, an anchor. It feels collaborative.
Growing with you versus learning from you. That's a really clear distinction.
It is. So if a woman finds herself constantly in the role of teacher or emotional fixer, or if she feel like she has to constantly justify the relationship or manage his life, she's likely dealing with an experience seeker or someone looking for a surrogate parent. And that ultimately is just a drain on her energy and her time.
Which leads directly to that point about the value of time, especially for a mature woman.
Yes.
Investing significant time and emotional energy in a connection that is fundamentally mismatched or leads nowhere.
Yeah.
The sources call that a form of self-betrayal.
It is, because presumably the mature woman who has done her inner work knows her own value. She understands that her time and energy are precious, non-renewable resources.
Right.
So she tends to recognize the superficial or the transactional much more quickly, and she doesn't engage in prolonged emotional negotiation or trying to force something that isn't there.
She disengages earlier.
Yes. She possesses what one source beautifully calls the art of sourcing space.
The art of sourcing space, that's lovely phrasing. What does that mean in practice?
It means she doesn't try to manipulate the situation or force the connection out of a place of neediness or anxiety about being alone.
Okay.
Instead, she focuses on maintaining her own center. She creates an environment, a space where the other person can be authentic, can show up fully without fear of judgment. But she doesn't need them to.
How does she create that space?
By maintaining her own life, her own interests, friendships, passions. By upholding her boundaries consistently but kindly. By demonstrating emotional self-sufficiency. Her stability is the container for the relationship, but she isn't relying on the relationship to fill her up.
So sourcing space requires having learned, first and foremost, how to hold and sustain oneself.
Exactly. You can only truly hold space for another if you know how to hold space for yourself.
Which brings us right back around to that ultimate paradox of attraction we discussed.
Yes, it's the core paradox.
When a woman is genuinely complete without a partner, when she stops desperately searching for love or validation outside herself, she paradoxically becomes incredibly magnetic to it.
Precisely.
And when she stops needing to be rescued, she creates the conditions for the kind of connection that truly nourishes both people involved.
The final insight, perhaps, that we can take from analyzing this dynamic is this. What these younger men are often seeking, consciously or unconsciously, isn't perfection in a woman. It's not someone who has all the answers neatly figured out.
What is it then?
It's presence.
Yeah.
Real, authentic presence. The capacity to just be with the big questions of life, to be comfortable with uncertainty, and crucially, to be consciously vulnerable herself.
So she doesn't have to be invulnerable or have it all together.
Not at all. She simply has to be authentic in her vulnerability, willing to show up as she is. That's the real magnetism. Hashtag outro. So if we were to synthesize the core alchemy of this connection, what makes it potentially so transformative? It seems these relationships can be revolutionary because they bring together a man who is seeking a woman capable of sustaining his developing masculinity, supporting it, without trying to domesticate or restrict it.
Yeah.
And a woman who seeks a partner who genuinely appreciates her depth, her wisdom, her complexity, without feeling diminished or threatened by it.
Right. Mutual appreciation at a deep level.
Exactly. And they tend to find each other most powerfully when both are operating from a place of relative secure attachment and genuine self-possession.
I think the profound takeaway for anyone listening is that deep, real love, transformative connection, it absolutely exists outside of those narrow conventional boxes and age constraints we often impose on ourselves. And it's found not so much in chasing or pursuing or trying to convince someone of your worth,
No.
but more, as the sources suggest, in being, in living your own truth so completely, so authentically, that it naturally becomes magnetic. When you focus on cultivating your own inner fullness, the right dynamics tend to find you.
Beautifully put. And perhaps we can leave you, our listeners, with a provocative thought to maybe chew on this week, something related to your own relational dynamics.
Okay.
If you were to honestly assess your current connection points, romantic, platonic, familial, are you generally operating from a place of plenitude? Meaning, choosing to engage from a sense of fullness and self-sufficiency? Or are you more often operating from a place of need? Seeking rescue, validation, completion, or maybe just distraction from outside yourself?
That's a powerful question.
Just noticing that tendency.
Yeah.
How might shifting even slightly more towards plenitude transform the quality of your connections, maybe almost immediately? Something to consider.
Definitely something to consider. Thank you for joining us for this deep dive into relationship psychology. We really hope this sparked some insights for you. And we genuinely want to hear your thoughts on this topic. What resonated? Did the distinction between security and protection land with you? Let us know in the comments.
And of course, if you enjoyed this deep dive, if you got value from it and want more content like this, please do the things that help us reach more learners. Like, subscribe, maybe share this video with someone you think might benefit.
Absolutely. Your participation helps us immensely. And most importantly, please tell us in the comments, what complex relationship topic or psychological dynamic should we explore in our next deep dive?
Yeah, we're already kicking around ideas, maybe looking deeper into the psychology of different attachment styles, or perhaps how to manage conflict from that place of security we talked about.
But ultimately, we build this channel for you, the learner. So let us know what you want us to unpack next.
We look forward to hearing from you.
Thanks for listening.